Welcome to Impact OC, the only program showcasing the people and organizations shaping Orange County. With your host, Don Camber.
Hello, live from the OC Talk Radio studios at UCI's Beal Applied Innovation Center. I'm OC Talk Radio Public Affairs Director Don Camber with another great guest positively impacting our community. Today, I welcome Shanti, Orange County Clinical Manager, Licensed Marriage and Family Therapist, Chelsea Gervan. Shanti, Orange County offers services for people living with chronic diseases, including HIV/AIDS. Its mission strengthens the health and well-being of Orange County through safe and affirming mental health care, wellness, and social services. Thank you, Chelsea, for being on Impact OC.
Thanks so much for having me, Dawn.
Chelsea, please share with us who you serve and the chronic diseases they live with.
Yes, so Shanti, Orange County provides mental health services for folks who are HIV positive. And so we originally started in Laguna Beach and during a peak of the AIDS epidemic. And so we were doing case management services, offering emotional support, and providing practical assistance for things like meals, transportation, access to medical care. And so we've expanded quite a bit since then, but that's how we started.
Explain the name Shanti.
Yes, Shanti meaning inner peace. So that I think fits the culture of Laguna Beach. It's a little hippy-dippy for the time that it was, but also really valuing community and coming together and providing compassionate services.
So who do you serve?
We serve clients living with HIV. So the main way, or one of the main ways that HIV is transmitted is men who have sex with men. So a lot of our clients who are living with HIV are male, but we also have some female clients as well. And then we've expanded quite a bit since then. So we also have a mental health department. So we provide therapy and case management services for anyone who is either preteen, and I think our oldest client is 98. So we offer couples therapy, families therapy, and individual. So
when you say therapy, what do they need help with?
It's such a wide range. So anyone, and we take almost all major health insurances at this point, including Cal Optima. So if someone is struggling with anxiety, or they're struggling with depression, or they find themselves in romantic relationships that aren't good for them and they don't understand why. So I think for someone who's trying to improve their mental health, they want to live a life that's more authentic to them and be able to live the life that they want. Part of that is having some introspection into your own psyche. So that's what we do in therapy.
Individual therapy or group therapy?
We do offer support groups for clients living with HIV, and then we offer individual therapy, and then we work with couples and families as well. So it depends on what you're kind of trying to work on, and if you want to do it on your own or if you want to do it with your partner or your family.
Now, let everybody know that people living with HIV can live a long life.
Absolutely. Yes. And that's, I think, one of the biggest misconceptions. And so medicine has come such a long way. So now folks can take medication, antivirals that allow what we call like the viral load to keep them undetectable. So even if they went to take an HIV test and they're undetectable, it still won't come up on a test. And then they can't transmit it to anyone else. So there's zero risk if they are undetectable.
Now, do couples have issues because sometimes the outside world doesn't accept them?
That's a really great question. I mean, the answer is yes, right? That there's still some stigma around that. And so one of the things that I think is the common denominator for our clients, whether you're HIV positive or not, is how do I have hard conversations with the people that I care about and who are close to me? And so whether that's someone who's in the LGBTQ community who is coming out to their family, or they're having to disclose their HIV status if they choose to, or if it's how do I tell my partner that I want to feel closer to them, or how do I talk to my kids differently so I can have a better relationship with them. So it's a really wide range of what we can help with that.
Give us some stories, if you can, about some of the people you deal with.
Yeah, and I can only go so far in terms of client confidentiality. But I think the thing that stands out to me the most, and with some of the clients that we work with, is chronically feeling misunderstood. So during the AIDS epidemic, right, like no one knew where this was going to go, or, initially when they got a diagnosis, they live 3 to 9 months. And so being able to come to a place like Shanti where they felt not judged, where they can talk about things that really meant a lot to them, and how do I want to spend the rest of my days. And so at Shanti, that's something that we really pride ourselves on, is come as you are, and you can talk about anything from sexual orientation to gender expression to living the kink lifestyle, or again, you want to just work on some childhood trauma to where you just really didn't feel understood.
Now, do they have to talk about their childhood trauma in order to kind of, I don't want to say recover, but feel more comfortable in their life?
Not necessarily. We do offer treatments. So we also have clinicians who provide EMDR. So that's a specific treatment where you process your trauma, but you do it internally versus doing as much of the talk therapy. But you don't always, it usually goes hand in hand that the things that plague us in our current reality, that there's been a history of, there's information, there's important factors that will just come into play. It's like we can't, and this is my perception, that we can't really live our authentic life in future without understanding where we've come from.
So explain the testing that people can go through.
Yeah, so if someone also, that's another service that we've recently started doing at Shanti, is psychological testing. So if someone is wanting to kind of get confirmation that they have some sort of learning disability, so a lot of schools will do this. So yeah, testing for things like ADHD or learning disabilities. We also test for personality disorders, PTSD. And so if someone is wanting, assistance in getting some clarity on something that they might be struggling with, and they can come and get that.
And the testing will help them understand themselves.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Explain how that works, though.
Yeah, the testing piece,
once they get the testing going on, how it helps them understand themselves so that you can help them. Because if they know what's going on with themselves, you can kind of say, well, you got to live with what you got and then move on.
Yeah, so I think a lot of folks can relate to this, that if there's something that you struggled with growing up but didn't really know why. So for a lot of folks who come for testing, they get some clarity. So many more things in their life make so much sense. Why they struggle with organization, or why they struggle to make friends in some way. So sometimes that can be a really nice puzzle piece. It's not always needed, but it's encouraged to help put some of the puzzle pieces together.
And can you explain how some of the diagnoses can help with their understanding?
Yeah, so with something like PTSD, that I think it's different having it confirmed and seeing it on a to come from someone who actually knows what they're doing and can give you that feedback. Yeah, and so that's, I would say, the most common diagnosis that people come in for is ADHD, because we know so much more about it than we ever have, and so I would say that's the most common one.
And when they have that, then how do they approach life now that they know they have it? Because there are things that you can do to live with it.
Exactly, and so at our agency, I mean, and I think just me as a therapist too, that providing options is important, that you can make your informed decision about your health, about your mental health, about your relationships, if you have the information that you need to make a better decision. So say if someone does get an ADHD diagnosis, they have options. They can take medication. That is one option. They can also make behavioral changes, but they can also just start having conversations with people in their life that help them understand them better, so that they don't feel so alone in like some of the symptoms that they've had their entire life.
So how does it work? they contact Shanti, and then what goes on from there?
Yeah, so call our main office number, and then we have an office manager who gets your paperwork started, and then we pair you with our main psychologist on staff who will do some of the testing. And if it's for therapy, then we pair you with the therapist who we think might be the best fit for you.
And about how many sessions would a person go through? I know it's different for everybody, but about how many would you say?
Yeah, it really is different it depends on what you're coming in for. I would say the psychological testing, I think, is 3 sessions or 4 sessions just to kind of get a couple interviews down and then explain kind of what the results mean. And so if it's for therapy and ADHD, I would say the average kind of time we will see someone is maybe 6 months to a year, but it's not just like, for example, like it's not just about when someone has ADHD, the inattention, it's about the way that they've learned to feel about themselves in relation to friendships or how they saw themselves in their family. So yeah, sometimes we can help someone with like the behavioral pieces of ADHD of how do I get organized? Am I eating enough protein? Am I getting enough exercise to really like support my brain in being focused and focused and organized. And then the other pieces are dealing with self-esteem and the emotional piece. So sometimes you can stay longer than intended, but it's kind of like layers of healing that you circle back around to.
How do you help people improve their self-esteem?
That's a really great question. One of the ways, at least how I work with clients, is by recognizing the ways in which they've learned to view themselves that may or may not be accurate or helpful. So if, someone grew up in a family where they felt different, or a lot of times I'll refer to like if someone's parent was an energetic mismatch to them. So say like a parent is really high energy and organized and right, like all these different things. If their kid is different from them, and it's not right or wrong, they just don't know how to kind of meet their kid. Maybe their kid is particularly shy, or they don't know how to make friends as easily. So when there's an energetic mismatch, sometimes that can cause someone to believe that there's something wrong with them versus realizing the positive aspects of yourself that you do have. It's just you kind of didn't get the direction that maybe you needed at the time.
So what do you kind of tell them?
So part of it is gaining insight that the thoughts and the way that I feel about myself may not be accurate. And then looking at how do I talk to myself? I think a lot of people can also relate to being their own worst critic or telling themselves things that either aren't true or aren't helpful and don't help them get to the places that they want to be in their life. Like if I wake up every morning and I tell myself that I'm never going to go anywhere or that I don't deserve healthy relationships, I'm never going to get there. So part of it is learning to talk to yourself differently, or learning to respond to your body when you're in fight or flight mode, when I'm having heart palpitations, or when I'm having stomach pains, or when I have this tension in my shoulder, when I get a headache. These are ways that our bodies will talk to us. So in using some of the somatic therapies that I personally use in my therapy, that's one way too.
So in a way, you're an expert bystander, if you don't mind using that terminology, to go into their life to explain to them what they can do, and they trust you, and then they will take your advice and improve their life by following your advice on how they can look at themselves, the voices they can use for themselves. And then do they ever take that into group therapy so they could talk to other people about it?
Yeah, I really wish we had more group therapies at Shanti. The main groups that we have are for folks living who are HIV positive, but sometimes depending on the therapists that we have at the time, that they can start their own groups. So we've had groups that are focused on grief. We've had groups that are focused on chronic pain. So yes, we intermittently will have different groups that are available. So.
Can you kind of tell us what you've noticed with some people in generality, where they come to you and then what happens when they don't longer need to see you anymore?
Yeah, it's such a surreal feeling when you see someone change over time and see them feel different about themselves and kind of slowly start to all of a sudden have appointments come up, or maybe they'll cancel, right? Like this just like a natural progression of my life isn't on fire right now, and I could attend if I want, but maybe I don't actually need it. And then we start rethinking, is this a really good time to say goodbye?
So they come, they see you in the beginning where they're probably mush.
Yeah.
And then eventually they're no longer mush. They have clarity about their life.
Yeah, exactly.
And then they are able to move on with their life. And then after you've had a nice, if you don't mind the term, relationship with them by talking to them, then they're on their own. Do they ever call you later on and just give them updates on their life?
Yeah, that's I do leave the door open with my clients that if they want to give me updates, they're more than welcome to. So when I do get them, it's pretty incredible.
Now, in this world of people who are gay, they still face discrimination, don't they?
100%. Yeah.
How do they deal with it?
Part of it is coming to a place like Shanti where how do I actually feel my emotions versus just stuffing them? And again, I think this is something that our society is really impacted by, and something that I think we're learning how to do a little bit better. My personal theory is that, during previous times like the Great Depression or like these distinct periods where we really struggled with having food on the table and having like these very basic resources, that more so now a lot of us have all the resources that we need, or most of them. So now we're focused on things of what we call self-actualization. That's, am I meeting my full potential of being human and being my authentic self? So I think that's something that I've also kind of made sense out of too. And the emotions piece of how do we help them actually identify what they're feeling and move through it so that it doesn't plague them, or it doesn't show up like tension in my neck or the headache that I've had for 5 days straight, right?
Because the problems they face can cause physical problems.
Absolutely. Yes.
Well, let's elaborate on that a little bit more.
Yeah. So, I mean, we know this even when you go in sometimes for a physical and we're, maybe we come out with a few tests that aren't normal and the doctor says, oh, are you stressed? Well, yeah, of course I'm stressed. Okay, let's look at how we're dealing with that. And so one of the other things that we've gotten really good at Shanti is, again, even when we started with folks who were living with HIV, they were in chronic pain, they were having headaches, they have aches and pains, they have these different things that will show up. And so that's not something that's new to us at Shanti. And so we really educate our clinicians of how to work with, how to essentially reprocess pain. So there's something called pain reprocessing therapy where you can learn different tools to help literally rewire the sensations that you're feeling in your body to be interpreted as safe so that the sensations can completely go away, which is a totally different really wild phenomenon, probably in the last 5 years that we've seen in the research with chronic pain.
You're using your mind to get rid of the pain?
Yeah. Isn't that wild?
No medication?
No medication. Yeah.
And is it you that's helping them do that? Or are you saying the clinicians are doing that? Or
both. Yeah.
Both
it's a mixture of both. Yeah. And that's one of the things that I love about our agency too, is that if someone is really passionate about using cognitive behavioral therapy, or they're really passionate about working with couples or using a specific modality like DBT, dialectical behavioral therapy, they can come and they can do their thing. We want therapists to come to our agency, and we want to help shape them into the therapist that they want to be. So that's kind of the wide variety that we have, is everyone has their own way of doing things. And that's what research shows is one of the best ways that therapy can be helpful, is 1, the relationship that you have with the client, and 2, just being tied to something that you really do well. So it doesn't matter what it is, but it has to be fit for the client, obviously.
Now, do your clients get their medication from Shanti?
They do not. So in our case management department, we make sure that you get access to, this is for clients living with HIV, that you get access to your medication and to the best doctors that really know how to work with that. And then we usually refer out for a medication. So we don't offer psychiatric services at this time.
How are you funded?
We are funded both publicly and privately. So we apply for grants. We also take almost all major health insurances, including Cal Optima. And then we also receive donations. So if someone today was really interested in supporting Shanti and being a part of the cause that we're really passionate about, then they can go to our website at shantioc.org and then click the red donate button, and the funds will be immediately used for the services for our under-resourced communities.
What are the demographics of the people you serve?
Yeah, again, it's a wide range. Our age range is, I want to say, about 11 to 98.
11 years old?
Yeah, so we see kiddos. So we have a wide age range. In OC, I want to say the largest population of ethnicity that we do see is white, but we do see a wide range of other ethnicities as well. So
What would you see kiddos for?
Kiddos are having a hard time sometimes, right? That I think kids are trying to make sense out of themselves and the world. And I think, again, so much research has come out about how our emotional health translates to our self-esteem and school performance, and being able to be emotionally regulated, right? That kiddos who are acting out, there's something happening for them. So it kind of depends.
What are the biggest misconceptions people have about gay people?
I think that they're different. I think again, one of the things that in treating folks in the LGBT community or HIV positive folks, that they just want to be loved and accepted and live lives that are aligned with who they really are. And I think that's one of the gifts that they've given us, right, is really giving this lens to, you don't have to be in the norm, that they've had to learn to be brave and be themselves. And so I think, that's a gift that they've given to the straight community, of how can you be a little bit more of yourself and have hard conversations and be the best version of yourself.
And how can people become more accepting if they haven't been accepting of people who are gay?
That's a good question. I think by asking themselves maybe ways in which they think they're different, and try to put themselves in their shoes of, what if someone judged me or ostracized me or treated me different because I operate differently. So even folks with ADHD, right, there's nothing that they can do to shift that. They can make behavioral changes. There's things that they can do to manage symptoms, so to speak, but their brains are wired differently. So if someone treated you different because that's how you were born, that would feel pretty devastating. So I would say, try to take a step back and be open to having empathy.
Having empathy. What got you into this field?
Oh, that's a separate interview. No, so I grew up as the youngest of 5. And so I think I've always been a naturally curious person. My mom always told me that I asked her what words meant, and I was just always asking her questions, like, a little pesteris, so to speak, but just being naturally curious about people. And there's a few folks in my family who struggled with mental health, and so I think I saw it at a really young age, and wished they would have gotten help sooner. So I think that brought up a lot of empathy and curiosity for me, and that when people feel good about themselves, when they're confident, when they can have the relationships and fulfillment in those relationships, it's a completely different life that you're living. So I think I just have a lot of hope and passion for helping people be happy and having the world be a peaceful place.
What have you seen from some of your clients that you no longer see anymore?
You said, what have I seen?
What have you seen that happens to them when they realize they don't need you anymore and you realize you don't need to see them anymore?
I think something that happens is excitement. Just the excitement that I didn't, for the client, that like, oh, I didn't know this was possible. Like, I didn't know that I could feel more confident, or I didn't know that I could do things that scared me still. And so I think it's the realization that I can live the life that I want to, which is pretty cool.
And that you're talking for them to live the life that they want to. And they're probably thinking, why didn't I see you sooner?
Sometimes, yeah. And that could be depending on the style of therapy of the therapist, that sometimes there's advice giving, but for how I work with clients, that I want to empower them to tune into themselves and what they want and what feels authentic to them. So it's empowering the client to be more connected to themselves, because I could sit here and give advice and say, oh, you should do this. But if there's not a connection to what they actually want for their life, or it doesn't resonate, it's not going to go anywhere. So I think it requires you to attune to a person and help them connect to themselves so that they can do it when I'm not there.
Now, Shanti, Orange County is located in Laguna Hills. Can you tell us where?
Yes, so we are off of Lake Forest Drive.
And it used to be in Laguna Beach, so many people may have remembered that it was in Laguna Beach, and now it's in Laguna Hills.
Yes.
Do you know about how many people you serve every year?
I think our current client load is 2,500 right now. Yeah.
All Orange County?
Some are not, actually. People find us in different ways. So I would say some people are in San Diego County, some people are in San Francisco, but most people are OC, LA.
And the issues, again, that they face are?
Anxiety. I lost my job and I don't know what to do. I'm in an abusive relationship and I don't know how to navigate getting out. I feel numb all the time and I don't really know why. I want to have a better relationship. I don't have enough sex with my partner, right? Like some things that are, again, I think a lot of us can relate to.
So they get in touch with your organization, and then through that, they will then be assigned to someone who can help them.
Yes. Yeah. So we try to do a really good job at pairing the therapist with the client based off what they're looking for. So based off of their ability, do they want in-person? Do they want telehealth? And do they prefer a male or female therapist? And what are they kind of looking for? So we really try to do our best to make sure it's a good fit. And then ultimately, if it's not, we try to pair them with someone who is a little bit better. So the flexibility and again, like the connection is really important to us. So we really try to do our best.
Well, thank you, Shanti, Orange County Clinical Manager, Licensed Marriage and Family Therapist, Chelsea Gervan, for being on Impact OC. And I thank everyone for tuning in. I'm OC Talk Radio Public Affairs Director Dawn Camber. Have an impactful day.
You've been listening to Impact OC, the only program showcasing the people and organizations shaping our community. Right here on Orange County's only community radio station, OC Talk Radio.